All right, so in this video, I wanted to share with you the planning system that I use to make a year's worth of progress in 90 days. And I'm not just saying that because it makes a good YouTube title for you to click on this video, but if you go back and check the video that I launched at the beginning of 2024, where I walk through this exact planning system, you can see for yourself how I literally use this to make a year's worth of progress in 90 days. If you watch that video, the goals that I set myself for that year was $200,000 in digital product sales and 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And using this method and everything that I'm about to outline for you in this video, 90 days into 2024, I had 20,000 subscribers in YouTube, double the goal that I'd set for myself, and I'd already reached $124,000 in digital product sales. And so this video is going to be very action-based. We're going to be really getting into exactly what those actions look like, the actions that I took to see those kind of results, and the exact actions that you can take to see huge momentum going into 2026. And so I'm going to be giving you my goal setting and my planning method, but I think a lot of planning methods are just productive procrastination. You do all of this thinking about your goals and what you want to achieve, and maybe you make these vision boards, but when it comes to actually getting started, it feels very overwhelming, and the actual actions that you need to take feel a little abstract. And so this is why we're going to be very action-based in this video. Wherever you're at right now, whatever business you want to build, whatever progress you want to make this year, this video is going to break down the strategic actions that are going to get you there. And so the first step of this is going to be going through this planning template, which you can also grab for free down below if you want to follow along with me. So the first thing that we really want to get clear on before we get into this is our vision. And so within this planning template, you're going to find 3 different pages that are going to help you think about what you actually want your life to look like. So the first one of these is finding clarity. And this is going to guide you through thinking about what you want your life to look like now, so day to day, and also what you want in the future. And as you're filling this out, you'll often find that either your now or your future list was easier. And so if your now list was easier to make, if it's easier to think about what you want your life to look like day to day now, but you're not sure exactly what you want your future to look like, which is halting your progress, you're unable to make those steps towards something that you're not really sure what you want it to look like. And so at this point, you'll want to shift your focus into setting smaller goals for the future so you can work towards building momentum. And then a lot of you are going to find that your future list is easier. It's very easy to think about what you want in the future, in your business, in your life, how much money you want to make, but you struggle to put anything into your now column, what you want your day-to-day life to look like now. If this is you, then it's likely that you are failing to make progress because you're not building good habits. The reality is that your day-to-day life now is going to dictate what your future looks like. And so that's the first step in looking at what you want your life to look like. The next step is calculating how much your dream life actually costs. How much is enough? How much money and things do you need to earn in order to live the life that you want for yourself? And then the third step in this is to do a time audit. And so most people just simply have no clue what we're actually spending our time on in a day. So the first thing you need to do is actually develop an awareness of yourself and your energy and your time. And so the goal of this time audit is to identify the tasks that give you energy and the tasks that drain you, and then refocus all your energy on the tasks that actually move you forward so you can cut out and outsource all of the other things. And also just to develop a more realistic view of your time so you can set better boundaries and better use your time towards your goal. Because this planning method, when it comes to making huge amounts of progress in your life and in your business, we're not talking about insane, unhealthy productivity. Like, how can we optimize every single second of every day to work the most amount possible? We're talking about how do we make the most amount of progress possible in the least amount of time so that you can actually see consistent growth without burning out, and you're actually using your time effectively on the highest impact tasks that are going to move you forward. And so once you kind of looked at your time, what you want to do is block out a period of time in your day in order to be working on these goals and these actions that we're going to outline in this video. And so it doesn't matter if you only have 30 minutes or an hour a day, just put it in there and make sure that it's realistic, that you can actually commit to that, and that you stay consistent with it. And so once you've actually taken some time to do that and think about it, we're going to get into our goal setting. And so this is going to look very simple, because I think the biggest mistake that people make when trying to set goals is overcomplicating it and trying to do too much. And this is when you give up. And so this is a very simple method, but very effective. It has genuinely cured 95% of my procrastination and made me hugely more productive with my time. I've seen huge amounts more progress using this, because I've simplified everything down to just the actions that are inevitable to be making progress. So part one is to set your targets for this year. And so these are your big, ambitious, unreasonable goals. Ask yourself, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? These don't need to be so realistic, and they can be as vague or specific as you like, because it actually doesn't really matter if we even hit these goals. I don't care if I hit these goals here. It's just good to have something to aim for and to push yourself towards. But what we're really going to be focusing on is breaking down these goals into realistic tasks and realistic actions that we can take over the next 3 months. And so the next section here is your non-negotiable tasks for the next 3 months. And so these are going to be action-based and not results. These are results focused for the year, but these are the actions that we're going to take in order to get these results. And so focusing your attention on the things that you can control without worrying about these end results here is what will keep you consistent, so that you can actually see these results that you're looking for. And so then once we have defined what these non-negotiable tasks are for the next 3 months, we're going to time block these tasks into our calendar to help you set realistic targets and keep you consistent. And so then at the end of the 3 months, you can then come back and review and change up your plan if you need to. But until then, we're going to stick with it. We're not going to get distracted by shiny object syndrome, which is the biggest thing that holds people back from actually making progress. Because when you start actually taking action towards these big goals over here, they seem so far away, and you're seeing so little progress when you're first starting that you give up very quickly, and you think that you must be doing something wrong and there's a different method that's going to get you better results over here. But realistically, all it actually takes is to just focus on the task in front of you in order to hit the goals. And so this is what we are going to be focusing on in this video. What are these tasks? Because this is the part that most people get stuck. It's very easy to set these goals, but what are the actual tasks, and how do we break these down into tasks that are actually going to move you forward? And so this is where I'm going to be taking you through my 3-phase launch sprint. This is the exact method and the exact actions that I focus on every time I want to make enormous progress in my business. So this is the method that I use to launch my web design business and go from 0 to 10K months within 3 months. And it's also the same method that I use to go from 0 to 50K month selling digital products within 3 months as well. And so if you're doubting if this is going to work for your specific industry or your specific business, this is the exact same method that I actually walk my clients through and help them actually implement this inside of my community. Fab, one of my students, is a fashion stylist, and she went from 0 to 42K followers on Instagram and a $1,500 launch of digital products in 6 weeks using this method. And I also have a student who is a journaling coach, which is very niche and very different to what I do, who used this to go from 0 audience to a $2,500 launch of her new coaching program within the same amount of time. And so whatever industry or whatever stage you're at in your business, this is the same method that I would use whenever I wanted to create that next boost of growth or momentum in my business. And so whatever goals that we have put here, we're going to use this 3-phase launch strategy in order to launch something that is going to become the first step in achieving these goals. And so, for example, if your goal this year is to reach $100,000 in client work, then we're going to focus on getting your first 2 clients and hitting $10,000. If your goal is to make $100,000 in digital products, then we're going to focus on launching your first digital product. Or if you're like me, I already have an existing coaching program and my goal is to hit $1 million in sales. That goal feels huge and completely out of reach for me right now. And if I think about it too much, it's going to be way too overwhelming. And so all I'm going to focus on doing over the next 3 months is launching the next round of my coaching program, Independent Creator, and improving it and making it the best that I can, and then taking it it one step at a time to get to that $1 million in sales. And so whatever it is that you are focusing on, we are going to apply our 3-phase launch sprint to this. So to really understand the impact of what we're doing over these next 3 months, I want to use Brené Brown's marble jar theory. And so what I really want you to understand first is that trust is the biggest currency that you have in your business. Any money that you make is only a result of the trust that you have built. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this marble jar theory in order to build trust in our business and create the results that we want. And so Brené Brown's theory about how trust is built is that every time someone shows reliability, honesty, care, or integrity, they add a marble to the jar. And then so when the jar is full, you then have enough trust stored to lean on the relationship during hard times or high stake moments. And so trust isn't built through one gesture, it's built through repeated micro moments. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this marble jar theory in order to build trust in our business and create the results that we want. And so this is how we are going to do this. So we're going to do this in 3 phases. And so the first stage is attract. And this is when we are growing our audience and our reach and building that trust and authority. And so whenever you have a goal, whenever you want to make a bunch of money, whenever you're asking something of people, the first stage is building trust before you even talk about this thing that you want to launch. And so every action that you take is one marble added into your jar, and the marbles that build trust in this attract phase are valuable content that teaches, helps, or reframes a belief, posts that build authority, so breakdowns, frameworks, insights, sharing behind the scenes of your process, case studies, screenshots, testimonials, stories that build emotional connection and reliability, showing your personality, values, and worldview, and any kind of micro win that you can help someone else achieve before they ever even hear about your offer or decide to pay you. And so the more of these actions that you take, the more marbles that you put here in this attract phase, the more you have to spend over here in the launch phase. And so a launch phase is when you are talking about a offer that you have, you're promoting hard, you're creating urgency, and you're driving action towards that. And so a launch is spending your marbles. So every time you ask for something in return from people to work with you or buy from you, you are spending some of those marbles, you're spending some of that trust that you have built. And so what spending marbles looks like is asking your audience to buy, direct sales content around your offer, using urgency or scarcity, and following up with reminders. And so you can't spend marbles that you don't have. If you are trying to launch a new business, you're trying to get clients, you're trying to sell a product, whatever it is that you are doing, you will not get sales and you will not get customers if you haven't built enough trust first. And so over the next 3 months, the longer that you spend in the attract phase building trust, the bigger the results that you will create in your launch phase. And so those are the 2 main phases, but there is a third phase within that, which is the pre-launch phase, where you validate demand for the thing that you want to launch. So the reason that we have this phase is that we are going to spend a lot of time in the attract phase building trust, ready to launch this offer over here. But the last thing that you want to do is spend 2 months attracting an audience and planning on launching this thing that nobody wants. And so what we want to do before we get to the launch phase is validate that whatever it is that we want to launch, whatever business idea we have, whatever offer it is, whatever we are building is something that people actually want and need. And that the audience that we are building is actually interested in the offer and the solution that you are creating for them. And so this is why we have this pre-launch phase, to validate demand and to validate our idea before we get to the launch phase, where we're going to be promoting it really hard. So those are the 3 main phases that you want to be focusing on over the next 3 months. But I'm very aware at the moment that this can still seem a little abstract. You're maybe not quite sure what the exact actions look like in each one of these phases. But don't worry, the actions that you need to take in each one of these phases are incredibly simple, trust me. And so the first step in deciding what the actions are that we are going to take and what the actions are that we are going to focus on over the next 3 months is first understand where we're at now. And so the first question that you want to ask yourself is, do you have an engaged audience? And so when you want to sell something that offers a specific result, first you have to build an audience that trusts you for getting them that specific result, and it has to be directly related to that result. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about an engaged audience. Is your audience someone that trusts you for the result that you want to sell them? For example, you might have an audience of 100,000 people that know you for talking about web design. And so this audience is very engaged and very powerful if you are selling anything web design related. But if you want to start selling something around video editing or personal training, you don't have an engaged audience. It doesn't matter how big your audience are, you do not have an engaged audience for the thing that you want to sell. So that's the question that we want to ask ourselves is, do we have an audience that trusts us for the result and the thing that we want to sell? And so it's okay if you don't. If you do not have this engaged audience, then we are going to spend a bunch of time in the attract phase, where the goal is to build our audience and grow trust around the result that you want to sell and the offer that you want to sell them. And so in order to do this, we want to post 3 different types of content. And the content that we want to post is we want to talk about the dream outcome that your offer achieves without directly selling your offer to them. We want to post authority content, and so your methods, proof, results, and portfolio. And we want to post connection content, so your story and anything relatable that you can share that connects with your audience. In order to do this, we want to start a content sprint. And so this is where you're going to pick one platform and you're going to commit to posting a set number of times per week for a set period of time. And so you want to make this very realistic, but it doesn't have to be sustainable long term. It's okay if for a period of time, say the next 1 to 2 months, you are posting more and committing to posting more content than you could actually sustain for the entire year, for example. And so this is our content sprint. It's when we're posting a lot of content and building a lot of trust in a very condensed period of time. And so we build trust and build our audience really quickly. And so this is going to be a huge priority of yours, especially if you don't currently have an engaged audience. If you do currently have a very engaged audience, then you probably can skip this phase. And so then the next phase is going to be our pre-launch, where we validate demand for whatever it is that we want to sell. And so the actions that we want to take in order to do this is posting content that shows the results or the transformation of the thing that you are launching. You want to share behind the scenes of you building your offer, and you want to directly ask people if this is something that they would buy either through your content or reaching out to your existing network. And so if you don't currently have an audience, or your audience is very small, then you can reach out to your existing network. I've given you an example message that you can send them here. But the thing that I really want to emphasize for you here is that posting content and growing an audience is a long-term game. Reaching out to your existing network and doing cold outreach is a short-term game. And if you never play the long game, so posting content and building your audience, then you will be stuck playing the short game forever. And so if you rely on cold outreach and never build a system that attracts people to you, then you will be stuck doing cold outreach forever. But if you focus on creating content and building an audience and creating this system that attracts people to you, the more you do this, the less you have to do it in the future going forward, because the results compound, your audience grows, and eventually you have the system that brings in new audience and new people to you without you having to do a huge amount of work. And so if you have a content focused launch, you will start to gain traction and sales will come easier in the future. But if during this next 3-month period, you are focusing most of your time on outreach, then at the end of the launch, you will be starting from zero and you will have to be doing a lot more outreach again for the foreseeable future. And so this is the pre-launch phase. This is when we ask people directly if this is something that they are interested in. These are people that already like, know, and trust us because we've spent a lot of time in that attract phase before this. So the other thing that you can do in order to validate your idea is build a waitlist. And so if you're wanting to do this, then all a waitlist is a simple landing page that you can create using whichever email marketing platform that you're using. And so if you're going to build a waitlist which validates that this is something that people want, and you're going to create that list of people who are interested in the thing that you want to launch, then you don't want to do it for more than 30 days, ideally shorter than this, because those then are warm leads. Those are people who are currently interested in the thing that you are offering. And you also want to include an incentive to join. So why would someone be on your waitlist? Is it that they get early access? Is it that they get special pricing? Or is there an exclusive bonus that they're gonna get from being on your waitlist? And so all a waitlist is just validating that you have an audience that probably want the thing that you are about to launch. And then lastly, we can move into the launch phase. And so your launch needs to be a set period of time that is long enough to give people all of the information that they need to make a decision, but it needs to be short enough that you create intensity. And so most people will buy at the beginning or the end of a launch. And so having a really long launch over like a month period just means that there is a bigger lull in the middle of your launch, and it's more work to keep people engaged during the whole course of the launch. And so often the shorter your launch is, the more effective it is. So you want your launch to be probably between 1 to 2 weeks. And then during this launch, you want to define exactly how you will create urgency for people to buy now. A launch naturally creates urgency because it's available for a limited time period, but you can also increase this by saying that there's limited spots, limited pricing, or exclusive bonus. And so if you're launching a web design service, for example, you can say, this is my beta pricing, it's at $3,500 and there's only 2 spots available at this price. And then what you want to do is define the actions that you are going to take in order to launch this thing. And so what a launch includes is an announcement. So what is it that you're launching? Who is it for? And what result will it help them get? You want to share proof, so share your story, your results, your case studies, or your portfolio. You want to answer any questions or objections that people might have within this launch period. And then you also want to include urgency reminders. So tell them that there's a limited amount of spots left, there's 1 week left, there's 24 hours left. Include this within your launch period. For example, if you are launching to an email list because you have built a wait list, then you at a minimum will probably be sending 3 emails. So an announcement, a proof, and an urgency reminder. If you are launching directly to social media, which I recommend doing, especially if you are starting from 0 audience at the beginning of this 3-month period, then probably launch directly to that audience and don't worry too much about getting people on a wait list. Then your launch might include 6 posts over the course of 1 to 2 weeks, and you'll have an announcement post, you'll have 3 to 4 proof posts and answering FAQs, and then you'll have a couple of urgency reminders at the end of that, reminding people that this is available for a limited time only. And so I'm very aware that this can sound like a lot, but I really want to show you that the actual actions that you take in each of these phases can be incredibly simple. When I was launching my web design business, the actions that I took in each phase were very minimal. So the actions that I took in the attract phase was just posting 5 TikToks per week, 5 short form videos per week. The actions that I took in the pre-launch phase was simply building 1 landing page. I built a sales page talking about my web design services and seeing if anyone would sign up before I spent any time building out my web design services and my processes on the back end, because I wanted to validate that this is something that people actually want. And then during the launch, I just included call to actions in my regular content for people to reach out and work with me. And this led to 2 clients at $5,000, which was $10K a month. And so the actual actions that I took in this phase were 5 TikToks per week, and I built 1 landing page. And so it's incredibly simple. These actions were not easy. It's not easy to create content. It's not easy to create a landing page, but it is incredibly simple. These are the only actions that I took for the first 3 months. And then when it came to my digital products in the attract phase, I created 5 YouTube videos. I created 1 waitlist page. And then my launch was just 3 sales emails, which led to my first $50,000 a month from 2 low ticket digital products. And so the actions that I took throughout the entire launch were creating 5 YouTube videos, 1 waitlist page, 3 launch emails, and then just creating those digital products, which happened to be templates that I already had. So I didn't spend too much time in the creation phase with those. So the thing that I really want to emphasize here is that these results down here were a result of me going through this 3-phase launch cycle of attract and launch consistently over 3 years. And so while your next 3 months might not quite get you the results immediately that you're hoping for, repeating this cycle consistently over the next 12 months will create insane amounts of progress for your business. And so what I want you to do now is define exactly what those actions that you are going to take in the attract, pre-launch, and launch phase are, and then add this to this planning template that you can grab down below. And so once you've defined these actions, there are 3 rules that I want you to follow. The first is do not add any new tasks mid-sprint. You want to avoid shiny object syndrome and just stick to the task that you've set yourself. The second is to be flexible with yourself. It is not always going to be possible for you to hit these consistently every single week, but if you miss a week, keep going. Don't overcompensate and try to make up for it the next week. Just keep going and do the best that you can to stick to the plan going forward. And the third rule is do not change directions for the next 90 days. And you are probably going to doubt yourself 100 times over these next 3 months, but that doesn't mean that it's not working. If you focus on taking these actions and forget about the outcomes and just see it through to the end, I promise you, you will see results. And I'm not telling you that it's going to be quick or easy. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it. But if you want to see huge growth and huge progress, this is how you want to start your year. If you want my help with this, you want to do it together, then you can join my program, Independent Creator. The waitlist is down below. But if not, what I recommend you doing is just save this video, come back to it in 3 months' time, and drop me a comment below letting me know how it went for you.